Recording is on.
Cool. So this is the first Bitcoin design crit, or the third, sorry, not the first. Today we're going to be looking at bolt.fun. We got Ed and John's here. Do you guys want to introduce yourself, just to the people who are watching, in case there's other people who don't know who you guys are? Like, more than welcome, just say who you guys are, what you do, bolt.fun, and briefly say what it is in a minute or so.
Yeah, of course. Hi, my name's Ed. I am a product designer, Bitcoin product designer. And Johnson and I work together with a couple of other people at Peak Shift, and we are sort of incubating this project called bolt.fun, which is an open source community space for Bitcoin makers to experiment with Lightning Network technologies, and hopefully bring the next layer of adoption to the web when it comes to Lightning web applications.
Sweet. I don't know if you wanted to say anything, Johns, or...
Yeah, I'm Johns. I'm a Bitcoin designer, software engineer, working on a bunch of research for cutting edge Bitcoin user experience stuff. That's what I really like to do. And creating Bitcoin products, something that I'm really excited about right now, and learning how to architect this new Web3 on Bitcoin. Um, and yeah, we're experimenting with that architecture with this kind of like social networky kind of project, which is bolt.fun, which is also a community that we felt that was very needed to encourage the creation of more Bitcoin products.
Yeah, cool. Yes, that pretty much sums that up. The design review today is going to be focusing on a vote button, which will kind of make more sense once we kind of get into the Figma and kind of look through the comments and so forth. But yeah, we're focusing on the voting aspect, which is a way to kind of, I guess, tip, or I don't know if you guys want to use the term tip, or give value payments for people who are posting stories or posting their products on bolt.fun. So it's a pretty cool feature. It's quite unique. So obviously there's some pretty new kind of UX flows. It kind of uses WebLN. I think Albi is the only really service you can kind of use with bolt.fun at the moment. So yeah, use Albi, which uses WebLN to kind of make these payments. But that will make a bit more sense to people once we kind of get into the Figma, which you guys all cool for me to share my screen right now and we kind of walk through it all. Cool. Just give me a sec. Cool. Can you guys see that?
Yep.
Cool. So yeah, like I said, I'm going to be focused on the voting button in bolt.fun. We'll get straight into the file, so adds a bit of context to kind of what I've been talking about the past minute or so. So how the crits work, just a bit of an overview for you and John's and Ed. I kind of just laid out the screens that kind of focus on the flow relating to the aspect that we're going to be reviewing. So that's the voting button. I kind of laid them out. I opened this public to the community, the Bitcoin design community, and people can just come in, edit stuff, put their own frames in if they think I've missed something, and leave comments. But the main thing is people just kind of go through, leave comments, and then what we do in this call, we kind of pretty much relay the information and relay I guess, the stuff that's probably most relevant for you guys and the stuff that's kind of give you the most signal. But it's been going pretty good so far. Any feedback after this, by the way, guys, is more than welcome for going forward to do another crits, because obviously there's lots of different ways you can kind of present this. But to get started, I just wanted to start with the homepage, just landing on bolt.fun, because this is kind of how you get to the stories page, which is where the voting button part of bolt.fun that we're going to be reviewing is mostly focused. So this is the kind of page you kind of land on initially as a homepage. And me and Christoph, or mostly me, left a little bit of feedback here. I don't know if you guys wanted any feedback on that, but I kind of just had the screen there and I thought I'd just make a few comments around certain things. So going from the top, I did mention this on your Discord. I feel like it would make a lot more sense to call this page app directory or just directory instead of products. So I felt like that was more in line with what this page is actually kind of showing the user. Is that zoomed in all right enough on the Figma, by the way? I don't know if you guys can see that, but I got a really big screen, so it kind of stretches out sometimes on camera. But yeah, so initially calling this products, it would also be good to highlight this purple to show that you're on this page, just a very minor thing. As well with the top menu, it would be good to bring this whole top area to be in line with the rest of the content. So having the screen, I'll actually just, give me 2 seconds, sorry. Oops. It might be a bit easier if I have the mouse pointer popped up. Sorry about that, guys. Probably seeing my big ass monitor right now. I don't know if you can see that mouse pointer for it to be a bit clearer. I don't know if you can see that there, but yeah, so it'd be easy to have, like, if you had the top menu kind of in line with the content going down, just make things feel more centered and a bit cleaner, just a very minor kind of UI UX thing. I also made a comment around the search button. It would be easier if this was just already like a form that you click on and you could instantly access it. It would reduce the clicking by one instead of clicking twice, having to go to search. And there's also an accessibility point around that. If someone's using like a screen reader or some kind of device that reads the screen, if it's just a button that needs to be clicked to show the placeholder text, there can be issues with that around accessibility and make it harder for those people to find the search bar who are maybe visually impaired or have some other kind of handicap that prevents them from being able to use apps as effectively. So I did make a comment around that. Just one more thing about the top. I did make comments on some other areas around this, but just may as well go through it while I'm going here. But just the login button confused me a little bit after the fact of using it, because you are kind of like say for example, I land on this page, I didn't have used bolt.fun before. Login to me, I would read that and be like, oh, well, I don't want to log in. I'm not a user. I'm not registered to this site. The first thing I would think of would be like, oh, well, how do I sign up? And the sign up and the login button is the same thing in this context. And I guess you could have two buttons and they did the same thing, but that seemed kind of redundant. So something to keep in mind. I didn't really have any solid suggestions about what you could call that. Maybe like just use a brand new term and just say like connect, and you want to connect your Albi wallet or something, and that kind of gives you your profile, or however you want to go about it, or connect your wallet using LN auth. But that was just one thing I kind of thought of when I went through that. Just another point here, I think it's good to have persistent caret icons here with a little bit of like a, what do you call it? Like a shadow with a blur, just to kind of show, make it a bit clearer that these menus, where this top one as well as these individual cards are slidable across. If you do hover it over, they do show, but I think it's a bit easier to know that they do slide over if it's just there persistently. Especially when the case, if these kind of fit in very snugly, say for example, this geyser card fit in perfectly and its border matched directly with that line, it wouldn't look entirely clear that you could actually slide across to more apps. So just having that persistent caret there with a bit of a blur would make a bit clearer that you can go across. If you go on YouTube, they have like a tabular menu at the top, and they have like that caret kind of with the blur that I'm kind of talking about. Another thing is just making all the cards the same size would just make things look a little cleaner, I think, visually. I know they are different size because this sub tag kind of is a bit bigger, but maybe it's just worth making these the same size as these ones so that it kind of looks consistent when you're going across. As well, maybe adding some slight spacing between these. You could probably use a similar spacing as using here to keep things consistent throughout, just to make that spacious there. I did try this on a few browsers. I thought that might have been something to do with my Brave, but yeah, there's like adding some spacing there would make things look a little bit cleaner regarding that. Besides that, I really didn't go into the details of the features of this page because that wasn't the focus of what I was looking at, but that was just some real quick kind of visual things. Oh, sorry, there actually was two more. I feel like these two items at the top took up a lot of space, so they didn't communicate a whole lot of information. I thought you could remove these, and for the bolt.fun hackathon, I thought you could maybe have just like a persistent sticky banner at the top of the page that had the date and a link to the Discord and said, there's an upcoming thing, and you could use it in a nice big bright purple, which to me would actually drag your eyes to it, probably maybe even more than this huge card that you have here. Probably not, it's pretty big, but it's something that I think is a good way to kind of highlight when there's like an event coming up, and it's a pretty common pattern that people see in websites and stuff like that. And then you could have like a submit, you could obviously move all this content higher up in the page. People would be able to view more apps then without having to scroll, which may make it tiny bit easier to use. And then you'd probably put this submit app button somewhere within this area. I'm not too sure exactly where. I didn't think that too far ahead, but you could add something there. And by the way, guys, feel free to stop me if something doesn't make sense and you want to question it. Like, it doesn't have to be me just kind of relaying info. Cool to just have this as like a conversation.
No, this is really great so far. We're doing a bunch of QA right now, and these are definitely things that we missed. So thanks so much.
Cool. Yeah, and this is all in Figma. I'll share it, and this is, you can add access and stuff like that as well. So all the comments that I'm kind of saying are like in comments, and I'm sure you guys know how to use Figma, so you can Shift C, have the comments show up. And yeah, all the details I'm talking about right now are in comments. And if there's any that I say off the top of my head while I'm going, I'll go back and add the comments if they're not commented already. All right, so get into the main kind of crypt part. This page is accessed from this page by clicking the communities tab at the top, and the drop down comes down and there's like a stories, discussions, and I forgot what the other one was. There's a third one as well. Hackathons, sorry.
Hackathons, yeah.
And then that gets to this page, and this is the page where the main focus of this crit's going to be on. And the main aspect that we're going to be focusing on, like there's a lot of stuff going on here, is the vote button, which is this tiny little thing here. And when you click this or hold it, it lets you donate sats to this person who made this particular post. And you do that through WebLN, like I was talking before, using a application like Albi. So I did make a few comments up here, which I think is pretty much the stuff that I mentioned before. So maybe doubled up on that a little bit because I kind of went back through and kind of just added stuff as I thought about things, and there might have been times where I added things multiple times. But one thing I thought would make things feel nice, I really like how you guys have all the content like very centered on the screen. Like it feels really nice, easy to use. Like the content is right in the middle, which I like. Like I know some apps, newsreader apps, like I think Reddit, for example, like the content's kind of shifted to the left, which makes it just feel like a little bit weird. Like with the right hand and the left hand secondary menu options make it feel a bit funny. So yeah, I do really like that you guys have that content centered. A way you could like accentuate that a little bit more is I think you could make this menu entirely centered. I would even maybe go as far as reducing the spacing between these, and instead of having a community drop down, just have those shown clearly, like just have stories, discussion, and hackathons showed there. But you'd have to probably do that and visually see if it was too much copy. As well, like you could have the donate button, something you could do, you could remove, if there's too many options there, you could remove the donate button and then have like some kind of like cool fancy way to donate with Albi, because I presume people are going to be using Albi to use bolt.fun, so you could have some kind of fun, unique way to kind of donate. Maybe some little toggle button pops up here on the screen that people can chat to you guys as well as donate or something like that. I don't know, it's just a random idea. I didn't want to get into recommended features, so just disregard stuff that I say like that, but just thinking out loud when I'm kind of doing this stuff. So I don't mind that. I'm not too sure why these images weren't shown. That's I think a part of my fault, not part on bolt.fun, so I didn't make a comment on that.
I saw the same. Some images were not loading.
Yeah, that's our fault because we don't have an image upload services yet.
Okay, yeah, that makes sense. A little bit off topic as well. I did make a few off topic comments here. I made the same one here about using the persistent banner at the top. That banner could be shown on any page on the website, so you could easily advertise it when the next hackathon's coming up in a more compact, easy way. And using the big bright purple, I think really draws people's eyes, maybe, like I said before, more so than the dark green and the green aspect there. Another thing as well, I thought like this menu is pretty much the same as this menu over here. So I thought you could just replicate this component and have it like at the top here, and then remove this side menu, and then you can maybe have a bit more space for the actual articles. Remove the writer story. I was going to do a little design mock-up on this, and I might do that tomorrow if I get a bit of time, but I just thought that would make a bit more sense. Then you could have like a filter button that gave you these three options. That was just some minor things on this page. I probably could have gone a bit more in depth, but I started focusing on the button mostly after this. I did focus on the login part of bolt.fun as well, by the way, because I felt that was a crucial part of using the button. And that was obviously I had to log in to tip and give people sats, so I kind of did focus on that a bit. Sorry, what were you going to say?
Well, Well, actually, no, you don't need to log in to utilize that. The only functions that need login currently is for writing stories.
Okay, yeah, that makes sense. So
Mm.
that was one thing. I'll get to that point actually onto that when I get a little bit into the crit. I did just make a comment here that I just want to quickly look at what I wrote. Oh yeah, I did write. So one of the first things when I landed on this page is without just trying to just think of being a noob. I landed on this page and I was like, oh cool, this is a cool article. I didn't know I could tip. Well, I did because you guys told me that. Like I was just trying to think of it from a complete noob perspective. Like I didn't know I could tip. I didn't know how I could tip, and there's a lot of like things that I presume a completely new user to this site wouldn't really know. So I did make a comment here that because this is quite a unique, like novel experience, like particularly using WebLN and the tipping and stuff like that, I think it would be really beneficial to have some kind of maybe like just small wizard when the user visits this site for the first time, which I'm not too sure how to keep track of that without like being too invasive on people's privacy, but just giving some kind of like guide to help, or maybe even just having like a little button with a question mark that people click that just gives them a little rundown and says like, hey, you click on this, a tip, you need to have Albi installed in your browser and create an account over there. There's quite a few steps before you can really tip, and you obviously need to fund your Albi account then, and then you can tip it. So there's a little bit of friction there, particularly if you had no idea like what you were doing. So I was really trying to think of that from that kind of new user's perspective. One of you guys made a comment on the Slack and on the Jitsi, sorry. I'll come back to that comment actually.
I'm just taking notes, sorry.
Yeah. Take any notes in there. I'll come back to the chat. Actually, I'll close that for now. But yeah, I just thought having like a maybe some kind of wizard or something was just a bit of suggestion, just to kind of highlight those quite novel things. Like even for me, I'm pretty familiar with Bitcoin. I don't use Albi a whole lot, but I even like kind of stopped and like I tried to tip straight away, and I was like, okay, I got to log into Albi, and I didn't have any sats in my Albi, I had to fund it and then authenticate, and there's just a few like extra things that I had to kind of do. That's the same comment I left before. I did also test to see what it would be like logging in without Albi installed, and it just comes up with this kind of default Chrome error. I thought it would be nice to maybe have some kind of custom error by you guys. This is on Firefox, by the way. So I thought it would be kind of nice to have maybe some kind of custom error message that maybe had a bit of more detail about, hey, you need to log into Albi's WebLN to tip or whatever. This popped up, by the way, by clicking on the tip button. As you can see, I clicked on it and it obviously didn't work because I didn't have Albi installed, and it popped up. So that's also another way you can kind of educate users and be like, okay, you need to download Albi, it does this, use WebLN, and then you can also link off to maybe deeper dives if people want to get a bit more technical. But yeah, I thought that was just one point there, having something a bit more custom to help guide users. It does have a link to Albi, but I don't even think that was clickable. So that was a bit, it's annoying. You had to copy and paste that, and you had to go on that. It would be good to maybe to link directly to the browser store item, depending on what browser the user needs, so they don't have to go to the website and then go to the store and then download it. It's just a bunch of extra less steps they have to take to install Albi if they need to do that. Okay, so go on the next screen. That was the only comment I left on that one. It's just where it started actually with the comments around the tipping or the I don't know if tipping's the right word. Like, what do you guys kind of call it? Like, tipping sounds funny, but
Yeah, so we call it voting because we were trying to abstract away kind of like we're trying to use sats in another like abstract way to perform a certain function and that function is curation on the platform. So if you want to curate, we want the list of products and stories to be curated. To do that, like Medium or Reddit and these things, they use this upvote, downvote kind of thing, or claps or whatever it is, right? So what that allows you to do, it allows you to like curate a list. So we're like, okay, we want our list to be curated, but we also want to show that there is another way to use sats besides just payment. So that's kind of like the thinking behind it. So we call it voting. But a side effect of that vote is like one vote equal one sat, or one sat equal one vote. And so you're kind of like also tipping, you're also paying. Your vote is actually, it has some financial value that the creator or the writer is able to get from that, besides just the exposure of being higher up on the list.
Yeah, like the amounts people are tipping as well. Like I'd assume you'd have to maybe even adjust how quickly that scales up based on people holding the button. As the bit, like say for example, if Bitcoin in like 5 years worth like $1 million, like 24 Sats would be worth a lot more than they are now. Still be small amounts, but like those kinds of things might have to factor in as well. Thinking forward, like you might have to adjust how people pay because obviously the price is going to change quite a bit. That was just a random thought I had when you were saying that, but yeah.
Yeah,
Okay,
perhaps it's something in the settings that we can do to kind of like how fast the button iterates or something like this, or like what's your maximum tipping amount or something, some budgeting kind of thing.
I did want to ask as well, like how does the like algorithm or work based on what post gets shown at the top? Is it like the most paid within the last 24 hours, or I wasn't exactly sure exactly why this was shown first over this one? Like there was 2 posts down that had more sats than this one, so I wasn't too sure why that was shown over this one. That one down there, I presume it was to do with the date, but I wasn't too sure what those date timeframes were in relation to the tipping.
Yeah. That's a really good point. So currently we don't default to the most popular. It's defaulted to the newest, and you'll probably see some tags on the top there. But yeah, I'm looking at it now. As you raised that point, I'm thinking that we might have to like highlight the one that's active currently.
Yeah, because it's a hard thing to say because you could do it in that time frame, but then like maybe people still donate heaps of sats to something that's been on there for a long time. Yeah, I'm sure that's something you can figure out on the back end on the engineering side, but I just wasn't too sure and how they were structured in that regard. But I'm sure you guys will figure that out.
Hopefully we get more people to write.
Yeah. Oh yeah, I should be keen to contribute some content to you guys. Would be good. So just going down here, just a quick one before I go to the button. It would be good if these were clickable, I think. They do look like buttons. You don't have to make them clickable, but like the fact they're designed, they do kind of look like you could click them. So maybe think about that a little bit. Like if you click design, it would maybe filter these all by design and like select this filter option. So I just pretty much meant how I said I really like how you can hold it down. I love it how it shakes. I think that's really cool, and I like how it shakes even more the longer you hold it. And I love how all the flames came out. I think it's an awesome animation. Like, Ed also shared with me a bunch of different variations. Are you guys cool for me to bring that up on my screen share after this and have a look through the different variations and we can talk about them?
Yep. It's all open source. Yeah. So.
Yeah. Yep. Cool. But yeah, I just wanted to compliment and say I really like how that worked. Also, when it fills up to the top, because it like say it starts with like denominations of 1 and then the bar fills up. When it fills up, it switches denominations each time it fills up, hey, and it starts stacking high amounts per like time you're holding it. Is that correct? Am I thinking there? I wasn't 100%, but that seemed like what was happening.
Yeah, pretty much, yeah.
Okay, yeah, that makes a lot of sense. One thing initially, so I wasn't logged in at this point, so I actually hadn't logged into Alby. So this was in another browser, but this was back in my old browser, which had Alby already, but I hadn't actually logged in. One thing I wasn't super clear on is when I clicked on it, it said 1 sat and it said it filled up, when in fact I hadn't authenticated my Alby. I thought it would make a little bit more sense if I didn't get any feedback when I did that, because it kind of felt like I did something, but I actually didn't. So it would be nice to maybe be able to somehow detect that Alby wasn't installed, and like it would stop the user from being able to get that feedback that makes it look and feel like they've actually done something when in fact they actually haven't. So that was just a point there regarding that. I don't know, maybe the buttons can look a little different as well, like if you're not logged into Alby, and then maybe they could like actually, instead of being a tip or something, like you could have some kind of variation that when you click on it, it directs you to log in rather than makes you try to tip, which is going to fail, and then you're going to have to log in, and then you have to go back and do a tip again. That was just a point there. Like it kind of felt like there's a bit of kind of friction in that kind of aspect of it. But yeah, just making that a bit clearer and maybe making this as like a way to kind of log in or highlight that. I was trying to think of an example. I had one in my head like earlier, like like I know with like Reddit, if you go on Reddit and like you try to upvote something and you're not logged in, it instantly pops up in the middle. It doesn't give you any feedback on the post. It just instantly pops up in the middle with your login thing. So maybe you could do something like that, or just make the Albi pop up come up a bit quicker instead of having to wait a little bit. That was another point that I left here. I'm not too sure which comment I was, but there was quite a big delay between clicking the toggle and Albi popping up. That may be just something to do with Albi as well. Like that's a bit more of a engineering thing to solve out, but there was a bit of a lag, and sometimes when I clicked it, I didn't feel like anything was happening. And as well, if you sit there and hold down on it without being logged in, you can sit there and hold it for ages before the Albi thing pops up. So I was sitting there and I did up to like 1,000 sats, and then like I let go, and then I still had to wait like 4 or 5 seconds, and then the Albi popped up. And then I don't think users should be able to like hold in and do that if they're not logged in, because then it feels like they're doing something. They probably think they're doing something, but then they're going to get an error, and then they're going to have to just log in and then go back and do the whole process again, which can be a bit annoying to some people.
Yeah, so I think this is sorry. I think this is something important to highlight. What's happening in those 3 or 4 seconds, or this in arbitrary time scale that it takes to kind of like pop up the thing. It's not actually Albi that is causing this latency. The latency comes from so it comes from requesting an invoice. So how the voting works is that since we are not custodying any of the funds, it's a very the funds that are being voting, right? That you're using for voting. Since we don't custody any, what we do, we rely on the user's Lightning address in order to generate invoices, right? For the amount that you held it on for. So what's happening is that it's making a web request to the user's Lightning address server, and when that request is finished and the node returns back the invoice, then we're able to pop up Albi at that point. So this is something that we're really kind of struggling, how to show, because of course we want to have the button to be something like, hey, it's cool, something's happening, you've done something, but then at the same time, that thing that you did, that voting, it isn't complete, right? It isn't complete because there's 2 steps that are necessary after you click or after you hold it down. First step is fetching the invoice, or 3 steps actually. First step, fetching the invoice, prompting the user to approve it if there's no budget set in Albi. And the third step is actually confirming the payment. So since the payment is being sent directly to the Lightning address, the creator, right? The author, whatever, since the address is going directly to them, the payment is going directly to them, we have no ability to gauge if that invoice was actually paid, right? So what we rely on is if it's paid with Albi, the web BTC spec, what it does, it actually returns back a pre-image to the website, right? And if we have a pre-image and we compare it against the invoice that we previously fetched, then we're able to kind of like say like, yes, this invoice is actually paid because we've returned the pre-image, and we could compare the payment hash and whatnot. So that's kind of like what's happening because we don't hold custody. There's this kind of like under like an area in which we can't determine like a bunch of things. Plus, we have this kind of like latency going on. And how do we represent this? Not really sure. And that's why we are not. So right now, yes, you do need to have a WebLN browser. It's possible for us to show a QR code, or for you to copy a invoice and pay it on an external device, an external wallet. But then we will need the pre-image to be able to iterate the votes, because otherwise we don't. Otherwise we could just be like iterating on every time an invoice is created instead of actually people voting.
Okay, yeah, that makes a lot more sense than how that's kind of all operating then. Well, yeah, like yeah, I guess it's hard to not have a bit of latency then when there's so many like operations that need to get kind of executed. But yeah, it's I guess there's not a whole lot else to say regarding that. But yeah, that makes sense. So we'll just going forward with the rest of the kind of comments. So I did make one around the animation. Like personally, I really like the animation. Like I was kind of sitting there playing around with it, clicking it. Like it feels really nice. Like it gives you that little dopamine hit when you like sit there and toggle it and stuff like that. Um, I like how it fills up and changes the denominations. That makes it like clearer. I thought you could maybe slow that down just a slight little bit, just so people can be a bit more precise in the sats they toggle. That was just one thing I thought. It was quite fast. Just another suggestion, like I do kind of like what you guys have, but I thought it would be cool is you could start off with like small amount of flame emojis, and then like as it kind of builds up, they get bigger and like it becomes a bit more like full on. I don't know how like flamboyant you want to be with all the different kind of animations going on, but it like would look cool. I'm sure people would like playing around with it, but I like I don't think it'd be a bad thing to experiment with getting a little bit more like flamboyant with the animations and all the emojis that are popping out. Yeah, do like the flamethrower, something a bit crazy. You could maybe make the emojis larger or just make more of the emojis pop out like as it goes up, like a volcano type thing. You could even make like you could also use other emojis like that relate to the flame icon. I do really like the flame icon. So like maybe as it evolves, you hold it and it gets to like 1,000 sats, like the flame icons turn into volcanoes or something. I don't know, like something flame related. So it's still like in context, but something that's like a bit more crazy. I don't know, something like that. But those are just some other random ideas that I thought you guys could play around with because I've seen in your storybook that you guys have lots of different variations that you're kind of looking into. But yeah, that was just kind of one suggestion I had there. Like, I don't know if you had any comments around that, Christoph. Like, I know you kind of had a bit of a look through before the call, but is there anything that you kind of thought of when you're looking at it, or?
Yeah, it's interesting. I found it a little bit hectic. Well, I totally understand that it's like it's burning and it's moving, it's kind of fun, and the flames are coming up. It was also like, oh, I gotta be really careful here now when I interact with this thing. And then I totally understand the technical challenges, and I was just trying to think about how to, what to do there, about how to cover that time, to, entertain people with something while the invoice is being retrieved, and that's a really tricky one. Are you exploring anything else in that regard? Any techniques?
So the closest idea that I have, I think you mentioned it very well. You worded it very well. Like, how do you entertain someone in the meantime? All right. So it's like it has to be something in the context of the button. Well, the idea that I'm thinking is like something in the context of the button showing like an in progress state, instead of like a final state or something like this. What that means, I'm not really I'm not really sure. Something like with the border spinning or loading, or I don't know, because like literally something is loading and then it's waiting for that payment, and then it could finalize when the payment is actually made. But maybe but maybe if someone wants to like vote again, then how do you kind of like compensate for that? Um, and and yeah, in that entertaining mode, maybe like thinking about it like that, you can break out of just like the button and think about something else happening on the side. The original idea for the button, by the way, MTG's on this call here. I think we discussed for several weeks, with me trying to, MTG is the developer behind like all of this. We were discussing for several weeks like specific animation that I initially wanted us to have, which was that the entire page catches on fire. But because of technical reasons, we weren't able to do this, so it became like emojis. But I am really, really down for like the entire page catching on fire. So like, so Bosh, to your question, extra flamboyant, like extra flamboyant
Yeah,
as well.
yeah. Like I feel like it, like I feel like it's kind of on brand. Like I don't know, I'm not super in tune with bolt.fun, but like it's bolt.fun. Like should be fun. Like like that's kind of in the name. So I was like, yeah, I think it could be flamboyant. Like if it was a very serious kind of site, to the point, technical, like maybe flamboyant wouldn't be the way to go. But I think with kind of where things are and how like I kind of see your brand, it kind of makes sense to get flamboyant. But having the whole page going fire would be cool. Even like maybe you have like certain tiers and it gets to like 10,000 and then like this starts getting from fire, like just the post. And then if it gets to like 100,000, the whole page starts on fire. I don't know, like we could, tier it up and like, obviously if someone's doing like, say if someone donated like, 0.1 Bitcoin crazily, like you'd want them to like feel like they did something crazy because they did.
Exactly.
And it just go like
rock music playing like some heavy death metal or something.
yeah.
It's just like the whole page is on fire.
That was a good point about, sorry, you go ahead, Christoph.
Oh no, please keep going.
I was going to say about giving feedback after the fact of when you release it would be a really good idea. I think kind of what Christoph was saying. So having some, probably not the same animation that happens when you click and toggle it, but having some kind of animation, whether it's I don't know, it could be just something as simple as an indicator, or even just have it kind of just slightly shake, or have it flash color or something, just to show that like you've done that, and like it's like and behind the scenes something's happening and like it's loading or something, some kind of indicator because I guess that's where I kind of was with that, because I clicked it and I let go and then I'd sit there for 4 seconds and be like, like what's happening, is something happening, and then Albi would pop up. But like I guess it would make more sense if it kept loading after I let go. I'd be like, okay, something's happening, like something's loading, something's happened behind the scenes. So yeah, just wanted to make that point really quick. I didn't make a comment about that, but that's a good point, I think.
Yeah, definitely. I'm not sure if it's a good time for us to kind of give a little bit of our thoughts on it, because as I posted there in the chat, we've kind of opened up a GitHub issue around this button itself, and we kind of had some thoughts as a team on it, but I didn't know if we were finished with the crit and wanted to open up some of those things, because it'd be good to get your input on some of the things that we're kind of discussing between ourselves as well.
Yeah, I think there's not a whole lot else really. This is just me kind of logging in. This is just me funding my Albi. I did make a comment about Albi. I did make a comment about that if Albi didn't have enough sats to do the payment, maybe it shouldn't pop up. Like I had 0 sats, but it still popped me up a send option. But that's probably more on Albi's end. But it would be good to say like, hey, you don't have enough sats. You need to fund your wallet or something like that. This is just me funding it, me paying, and then this is me tipping. I know I made a comment here. I think this is pretty much the last page. So we can go over this and then do the comments. This is just about the login stuff, which we can talk about the blog post before we kind of look at that. But one thing as well that I wasn't too sure on, and I think it is for technical reasons, and Christoph kind of mentioned that too, is that after I'd voted, like I donated these, I think I donated like these 55 sats to this article. Like when I came back to this page, it wasn't clear that I donated those 55 sats. And I know that's probably hard to kind of know if it's paid or something like that, or if it's me and I'm not actually logged into my account like locally, or which is different from Albi, but it would be nice to have some kind of indication that I sent some of those sats and that I voted for that, even just like an outline. But I presume there was a technical reason as to why that was so. But that was just another comment I had around that. As well, there wasn't like, maybe even not that, but it would be like maybe cool to even have like some kind of feedback pop up like after you do the payment, like maybe a little like, I don't know, maybe like some confetti falls out from the top of the screen or something to be like, hey, cool, it's successful. Because when I made the payment, I just seen this number change, and I didn't really get any feedback to say like, yeah, cool, congrats, you've done it, like you've sent your tip. It just kind of, the number changed, then it was still grey, and I was like, okay, like I don't know if I did something, like even though I kind of know I did. It's just nice to get those little like dopamine hits with the visuals, I guess. But yeah, that was just those 2 comments I made there. Christoph mentioned something here. Yeah, he said it's just about technical reasons as to why. But yeah, I don't know. Do you guys have any comments on that point of the tip button?
No, I think that's a good idea as well. And if we store this information about like people like people who voted and stuff. Maybe someone just wants to be anonymous, so they're logged out. They never have to create an account, but they want to tip an article. And I think that's like kind of like the beauty here. With Lightning and like this kind of like new types of application, we don't have to force people to like create accounts for things that like Reddit, for instance. If they allowed anyone to vote without an account, then they would have these kind of like like a bunch of people like just upvoting like to infinity, right?
Mm.
So because it's sat here, like we don't have that problem and an account isn't needed. But yeah, maybe if you do want to be logged in, and since it's a community thing, then you want to show that you show some signal to the project that you you're vouching for them with your name as well as your money. um, I think that's a good idea. So we could yeah we currently don't store this information. I think we delete it currently every time a invoice is confirmed as paid, and we just increment the number. But I think we give that a try.
I think like a way you could kind of do things is me and Christoph made a comment about like I was a little bit confused how like if because I don't use Albi a whole lot, but how I authenticated Albi to my or bolt.fun to my Albi, connected it, and then there's also an option to make an account on bolt.fun. So like to me in my head it kind of felt like I had two accounts, like I had like an Albi kind of bolt.fun account and a bolt.fun account. It would be cool when you authenticate to Albi if bolt.fun maybe like had a pop up and asked to say, hey, would you also like to quickly create an account whilst you authenticated, just so I didn't have to then go and create an account as well. And then that's where you could tie that uh, data storage aspect in. And then if people do authenticate, that obviously indicates that they want to have a local account. And then maybe you could show like persistent data around stuff they've done if they've authenticated that account, if they have a local account, sorry. Whether if they don't do that, they probably want to stay anonymous. They don't want to have that data stored about it. You can not worry about it, but having it pop up, yeah, when you authenticate would be cool. So when you have like the authenticator thing come up and auto make an account, instead of having to like authenticate, because you can't authenticate twice. You authenticate with Albi and then you have to log in, and then you can authenticate with the Albi again to make an account or use Ellen or if it'd be cool if you just kind of could do that in one move.
Yeah, that's actually kind of an interesting UX issue, which I think I've kind of spoken to Christoph about it before, with this whole sort of like LN URL auth or like this Lightning login feature. Obviously, you can create an account with Albi right now, or you could. So we have this kind of like click to connect option, which is kind of obviously trying to encourage people to use WebLN to create their bolt.fun account. It's You could also use obviously you can scan it as well, so you could obviously connect you with a wallet which has LN URL auth support, so it could be Breeze or Phoenix or whatever it is. And actually there's this kind of interesting UX issue around, do I want to create my account through a platform like bolt.fun or Stacker News or LN Markets, whatever it is? Do I actually want to create my account with Albi, or do I want to create my account with something like Breeze? Because first of all, you have the issue of being on a and please stop me if this is getting a little bit off topic, but if let's say you had the option of you have a work computer and you have a personal computer, and on your maybe you want two different accounts, or you maybe have to go to an internet cafe and you don't have the Albi browser extension installed, you don't want to log in on an internet cafe if you did install it, things like that. So it's actually sometimes easier to scan a QR code and have that like mobile signing device and use something like Breeze for actually your bolt.fun account. But then for this actual tipping button, obviously we're using WebLN. So you could log in to bolt.fun and create your account with something like Breeze. Whereas, as I mentioned, you might have an incentive to do that. But then when it actually comes to tipping and actually then paying that invoice, that has to be done with WebLN. So there is this kind of strange interaction where you're like, do I have two accounts here? If you wanted to do it that way, it's like, do I have two accounts here, or is this just another method of being able to do it? Because obviously if you require WebLN, if you're on a mobile browser, this interaction is actually not possible yet. It'd be great to see a mobile browser which integrates WebLN. I think it's going to be pretty crucial for Lightning adoption on the web. But yeah, this interaction and this feature is not available on mobile because of that. So that's just kind of some thoughts on that different account kind of thing. I think it's a slightly wider UX issue with sort of the Lightning login feature maybe, and this particular feature with bolt.fun.
Yeah, yeah, no, it's really interesting. I haven't really looked into this stuff a whole lot, but that makes sense.
I'm just putzing around here on the right-hand side, and so at the bottom there's a screenshot from The Guardian. They're just really in your face. Sometimes you read an article and there's like a whole page. Basically, it's like, we spent all this time on this, all our amazing editors. We do so much stuff, and it's so important for the world. You should sign up because we're so amazing and it matters to the world. And I guess it works, right, for them. I think I saw some statistics about how that stuff like that really helped them, their business and whatnot. And then, if you do look at this, at the button, it's almost looks like an afterthought. It's like, look at this delicate little button here, And I feel like if it's such an important thing, if it drives the dynamic behind the site, then it should be the thing that encourages people, and you want to make this value for value thing happen. Maybe it should be a bit more bold and more clear about why this matters. It's not just for the fun animation. You're here for that too, but maybe there's like, hey, they spend like 5 hours on this. Do you want to see that time wasted? No, it didn't. Reward. I don't know. It could be all kinds of different things, and it can be a little bit playful down here, where it's like, okay, I've scrolled to the bottom of the post. What do I do next? This is what I'm supposed to do. I get it.
And that's also in line with the education thing that Bosch brought up, that we need to do maybe a better job as well.
Yeah, it's a good point. Like drawing more attention to the tipping, because the low opacity kind of gray doesn't really highlight it a whole lot. So yeah, maybe making it a bit more standoutish would make more sense. There's a whole lot of ways you can kind of do that.
Yeah, and oh, sorry, did you want to say something, Bosch?
Oh no, I had a thought, but just you say what you're saying. I'll remember what I was going to say.
Oh, okay. No, I was actually going to reply to you were talking about that gray color, and I was actually just going to reply to a comment that you made slightly earlier about like once you've actually done you've completed the action. Let's say you've donated some sats to this article, you've tipped the author. You had this question of like, how do I know that I've actually done that? Like, if I come back to this page, how do I know that I've done this action, or that I've been a part of that sort of that voting process? And I think that this is something which we're kind of which we discuss a little bit in that GitHub issue on the Makers bolt.fun GitHub, is this. If you look at something like the like button on Facebook or Twitter, it's a very binary button, right? It's either on or it's off. This one's a slightly more unique button in the sense that I can add to it, and then I can add to it some more. So it's kind of like, what state do we show when someone holds this down, and maybe we have some animations to show that it's kind of building, and that maybe there's a loading state where we say, okay, an invoice is currently being generated, and then they pay it. What then happens after that? Does it get filled with a nice color, which indicates, cool, I've donated to this thing, but does at the same time filling it with a color constantly, does that then say to the user that they can't click it again because maybe that's a binary option that they're kind of used to? Do we maybe go for an in-between where we fill it a little bit, and then maybe we fade that fill over the course of like 10 or 15 seconds back to a gray? So this is actually a question that we kind of had around the interaction design of this button, and I think that there are a lot of ways that we can go. Some other questions were kind of around like the invoice amount and stuff like that. I'm not sure if you noticed when you tipped. I think if you said that you tipped those 55 sats on the Latinodos article, it obviously would have counted from 0. However, if you're going to go back and tip again, as soon as you hold down the tipping button, the voting counter actually starts from 55. So it then goes from 55, 56, and it goes up till however long you want to hold it down. And then whilst the invoice is actually being generated and fetched and brought back to you, it actually shows the total amount of what it could be. So if you added another 55 sats or 45 sats onto that, let's say, and then it would kind of show this like loading state at 100 sats. Again, does that say to the user like you're about to pay an invoice of 100 sats, or do they kind of have to know where it started? If you look at a platform like Medium, they kind of have this, when you hold down the clap button, they actually have this little circle above the clap button, which has like a +1, +2, and it continues to count upwards. So you can hold down this clap button and it will clap multiple times in the same way that you could do it with this. I think they cap it at 50, so obviously we could go higher than that. But again, it creates a sort of visual distinction between the total amount of votes that this thing has received and then actually the amount that you're going to pile on top of that in the form of what will be a paid invoice. I don't know if you and Christoph had any thoughts on those issues, but it would be great to have you guys active in that discussion as well, because those are things that we're going to be thinking about too.
Yeah, I'm definitely going to jump into that GitHub discussion as well. I'll probably go in there in depth tomorrow and have a bit of a look through what you guys have all said. But I didn't actually, like you said, I also didn't do a tip after I'd already done one. But if it's stacking on top, I could see that being confusing to the user. But kind of what they do in Medium does make a lot of sense. Like I know you guys already have the numbers pop up that shows you how much the person's actually like. Does the numbers still pop up above it? How much the like? Because it would say like. I think it just says like 2, 2, 2, 2, 2, and then 5, 5, 5, 5, 5. I can't remember.
I think it's the multiplier. Like so, like
Yeah.
Yeah, the longer you hold it, the more it increases. So it's designed to suck all your sets, technically.
Yeah.
But we
You
assume
could maybe not show the multiplier and just show the amount of sats that the person's donating. Because like I know there's like I presume people would understand that a multiplier is happening when they start noticing things just start like doubling and then tripling and then quadrupling. Like maybe conveying the multiplier to them maybe isn't super useful information for them. Like maybe just adding the number up and showing the number of the sats that the person's donating makes a bit more sense. That's more relevant to what they have. And if they start seeing it add up really big, they can be like, oh crap, I'm gonna like pump the brakes and holding this button. But yeah, that's maybe one way to look about it. But yeah.
As Christoph said, you kind of have to, it gets a bit hectic and you have to be a bit gamble responsibly is maybe a banner message that we have at the top as well, you know.
Yeah. Or maybe it only
Sorry,
does multipliers to a certain. Oh, sorry, it just multiplies to a certain multiplier, and then it doesn't go up maybe to like I don't know ×5 or something. I don't know.
Sorry if I missed that earlier. I feel like I'm thinking through my own interaction ideas here right now. But maybe I should just say thank you when you've donated something. Just very explicit. It's like, yeah, makes you feel good too. Like, oh, thanks for supporting this. Because just using colors, it just gets tricky. I think us super nerds, maybe we can kind of figure it out, but I don't know, being explicit sometimes can be helpful. And another thing I was wondering, let me know if that was brought up, if clicking it should be a different interaction than clicking and holding. So I assume most buttons people just click on it once, and then because you don't expect to click and hold, right? That's just not normal. So and paying 1 sat doesn't make sense because of the fees. So maybe clicking it once should bring you some modal or so that explains to you what's happening, instead of you click it and then you wait a few seconds and you get this invoice modal popping up for 1 sat. And then clicking and holding should be different.
Yeah, so I feel like some kind of wizard would help explain those interactions, because yeah, someone might not know that straight away.
Yeah, that's a really good point, Christoph. With the click and the holding down.
I'm going to hold it down. I'm going to shift hold to get to increment in thousands basically, and a command shift hold in millions. You should do that just for fun.
uh, was that was it could this company there was this cheat code up up down down left right
The Konami code.
Konami code. Yeah.
Yeah.
That
Yeah, I
was,
think you can be more explicit with it, with this whole thing. You're very subtle
mm.
with it.
What do you guys think about the because like part of the discussion that we're having is like, do we use the flames or do we keep pushing the lightning bolt? And one kind of like the rationale behind the flames, it's kind of like it is something that's like a bit mainstreamy versus like lightning bolts, but it also allows us to kind of like abstract um, the lightning, the technology, the Bitcoin part of it, and kind of like turn it into something that's like, oh, this seems like a normal action that like I could kind of recognize.
I like
I that's the thing behind.
Sorry, yeah, I think I was just going to say, like, I like the flames. I think the analogy towards particular posts and like voting things upwards, flame, kind of indicates like this topic's hot, this item's hot. I think it's a lot clearer than a lightning bolt. Lightning bolt also ties in with our lightning kind of an on-chain analogy, and I think it's kind of good to drift people away from having to worry about those concepts, particularly lightning. Like it's all Bitcoin, I know we've had a lot of discussions about that over the years, so I really like the flame. I think it's personally, yeah, a really good emoji. I'm gonna have a look through some emojis when I reply to that GitHub, and maybe there's other stuff that might pop into mind, but flame makes a whole lot of sense to me.
Yeah, okay, this is another goofy idea, and you might just totally think I'm just full of crap in this call today. But this could be like the flame of creativity, the flame of passion about whatever you're writing about, and you as a reader, it's like you need to keep that flame going, and it'll keep the author excited about it. And I don't know.
I just like saying it's lit, but that sounds like a very nice. That sounds very nice.
I mean, bolt.fun, right?
Exactly.
You can have fun with these UI things.
Yeah. Christoph, what do you think about the shaking thing? You said it was a bit hectic, with your words. Um, just the feeling of the button, because like a lot is happening, I guess, within it currently.
Yeah, it's the there are three things happening. The bar is filling up, the thing's shaking, and the flames are moving up. The bar filling up, I rationally don't really understand.
It's four things actually, with the time multiplier numbers popping up as well.
Yeah. Yeah, it just takes a moment to get used to it. I mean, I don't know. I personally love this type of stuff, but it did make me felt a little bit hectic. Maybe you can just remove one of those elements. But I don't know. I feel like that's not going to be the deal maker here. That's just an interaction detail. I wouldn't do 1,000 versions of this button. I would more think about how it fits in the experience, seeing if the time between releasing and an invoice can be changed a little bit. Maybe there's the outline around the post is glowing or something. It's like, okay, something's happening with this post maybe, or just how it's presented down there. If it's maybe if it's at 0, then it says, hey, be the first one to support this post. Or I don't know. It's just yeah, it's a really important interaction on this side, and you want people to discover it. Maybe there are. I think it can be more
Just wanted
explicit.
I didn't actually make a comment or look at posts with comments, but can you vote comments as well?
We have a so comments are coming in 2 weeks.
Okay, cool.
Yeah.
Just
It's
just like one
like
other thing I was
the
going to add
yeah.
about Reddit. Like, Reddit's probably off the top of my head probably like the most similar like kind of interaction with this, with like their Reddit points, and you can award people and you like buy your Reddit coins. I forgot what they're called exactly, but not a big fan of Reddit's kind of UI UX that much. But they do like when you kind of reward people, they kind of make use of like the horizontal space on underneath the post to kind of highlight different tiers and things that people have done. Just going back to that discussion about if you've known you've donated and you have different kind of visuals based on how much you donated. Maybe looking into like kind of how Reddit does its whole like award based thing, and like you've got this whole space here that you could utilize in some capacity to kind of communicate that somehow. So like maybe it's just something to look into. I don't really have any great ideas off the top of my head, but